Inflation now, we're being told, is 9.1%. But last December, the Federal Reserve of the United States said it was going to be 3.1% for 2022. They were off. They were off by a factor of 3. That's not a small number, folks. Remember, these are the experts. They have 20,000 employees to help them actually make predictions. Not only that, but they literally have all the data. They have access to all the banking information. They have access to all of the financial records, all the government records. They have access to all of the data. They have 20,000 employees compiling that data, sifting through that data, and looking through that data. They literally print the money, okay? Like, they are at the very center of the United States economy. And they literally control inflation. Print more money, inflation goes up. Print less money, inflation goes down. It's like me driving a car and predicting that I'll be going 31 miles per hour in the next 10 minutes, but then in 10 minutes, we're going 91 miles per hour, and I'm going, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry, folks, but it's lies. It's just all lies. I mean, this isn't like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Like I said, they're the ones with their foot on the gas pedal. Finally, one government has decided to stand up and say, gee, why are your predictions so awful, to one of their central banks? And it's not a country we would have suspected that of. Kudos to you, Australia. Kudos to you. Australia is now saying, Australian Central Bank, why are your predictions so awful? Like, we could hire a 3-year-old with crayons to make better predictions than you've been making. We're giving you millions and millions and millions of dollars to make these predictions, but then they're just like so horribly off. Well, I don't know if they're going to get to the conclusion that it's because they're lying to you. When you realize that their predictions aren't so much like what's going to happen, rather than we're going to say this in order to move the markets up or down an appropriate level. Ooh, did I just say something a little too true? The Federal Reserve and other banks, central banks around the world, they make their announcements and their projections in order to move markets up and down, not to provide you information. I wonder if deep in the heart of the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago or New York or somewhere, that they have an actual prediction on what actually will happen. Are they really this grossly incompetent? Or are they really just that nefarious? I think most of us would kind of go with a mixture of the two, but, heavy on the nefarious side. They are downright criminal, and they are evil, and liars, and thieves who want to enrich their buddies. But they also do seem to be rather clueless about anything, whether they just put on that front. I mean, are they really that dumb? I mean, what would you do to a student that came in with a prediction of what's going to happen next? They do all this research. They do thousands of hours of research, and they come in with their doctoral thesis of this is what's going to happen in 6 months, and they're off by a factor of 3. No, it's going to stay like about where it is now, and then it goes skyrocketing up. What really changed in the last 6 months? For the United States, not really all that much. No. I mean, 2 years ago, okay, there's some events that, really shook things up. Okay, those could have been maybe unforeseen, but they should have been able to. So, okay, this is happening. Let's adapt our projections, okay? But over the last 6 months, nothing's really changed for the United States, and yet, the Federal Reserve decided that they wanted to steer markets in a certain direction, and so therefore they said 3.1%, either willfully ignorant of what was happening in the economy. I'm sorry, but this channel here, I was predicting 10 to 15% minimum inflation rate. Back about the same time. I don't have 20,000 employees. I don't have access to all the banking information. I didn't go to Harvard. But, I got my crayons out here, and I was able to come up with a much better prediction of where inflation was going to be than the Federal Reserve. That's Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations. If you haven't read that book, you need to. It's not under copyright anymore because he wrote it in like 17 whatever. It was one of the books that was one of the most influential books on the founding of the United States of America. Much of the Constitution was patterned after some of the thoughts that Adam Smith put forward about a freedom of economy, that markets should be free. But one of the things, he was very anti-government, okay? He was very like, governments don't have a place. They should stop meddling in the markets because they just make things worse. That's where a lot of this, he was the founder of economics, some have said, the studies of economics. He is one of the most brilliant minds, and he really laid out what capitalism actually looks like. He was the Karl Marx of capitalism. So Adam Smith, you should definitely write it. It's just really interesting stuff, and he really puts stuff in just very simple terms. He talks about bakers and bankers, and not so much about bankers, but butchers and farmers and this, and people who make nails. If they make this many nails, and just he explains things in just a really fun kind of way. He was a Scottish learner, I guess you would say. But he said that one of the few real roles for government was to enforce honesty in the marketplace. Because if you have people putting out their wares at under a guise or under falsehood, then people could be taken unawares, and that would kind of mess up the market. And he said basically that we need to be honest, and there needs to be this honesty in the market, or else the whole thing just doesn't work. Capitalism only works when there's honesty in the markets, and that's why I really hate. Out here we have Giant Eagle, but all you guys have grocery stores out there that have like fuel perks and everything like that. What I see that as is they're trying to obscure the price of things. So you pick up a can of green beans, you're like, how much is this can of green beans? And they're like, it's, if you buy 7, then it's this price per unit. It's like, I don't want to have to do math here. How much for the can of green beans? I mean, a lot of you knock Walmart and Aldi out there, but let me just say this. I pick up a can of green beans at one of those places, and it tells me how much the can of green beans are. I go to like Giant Eagle or Kroger or somewhere else like this. I pick up a can of green beans, and I have to do math. And then they're like, oh, and by the way, you get some fuel perks with this too. They're going to give you so many cents off per gallon and it's just like, ugh. In the end, how much is this can of green beans going to cost me? Well, it's complicated. I know, because you've made it complicated. You're trying to lie to me. That was one of the things that really annoys me out there, because I see that as them attacking capitalism, them attacking the freedom of the market. They're trying to confuse me so that I don't know what the price is. And if I'm confused, then they can take advantage of me. That's exactly what they're doing. And don't tell me they're trying to do anything different. Oh, we want to help you out with free gas. No, they don't. They're trying to lie to me. They're trying to lie to you, and that's why they do it. So Adam Smith says that is one of the true forms of purposes of government in the market is to enforce honesty. So like putting stamps on like silver bars and stuff like that, weights and measures and that kind of thing. But here's another quote for you, just from him, because it's a good quote. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect to eat our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. And that's just once again saying, when people's financial interests are aligned with providing you these things, you're good to go. But when you have to like hope that they do it out of the goodness of their heart, suddenly they become very inconsistent, right? We don't want to live on the benevolence of other people. We want to live on their self-interest, because you know what? That's going to make them show up at work. When they're showing up at work because they're getting paid, they're actually going to deliver the things. And that's how the free market works properly. But you have to realize that if these people's self-interest, if their financial interests for a moment get disaligned with providing you those goods and services, like say supply chain collapse or some other crisis event or something like that, where suddenly it's not beneficial for them to show up at work and provide you food or sell you things. At that moment, they're not going to do that for you. Now, if you have money, people are going to eventually, someone's going to want to sell you that, right? But for a moment, things could become destabilized. And this is why we need to be prepared, folks. We can't trust the experts who get paid whether they make a good prediction or a bad prediction. Those 20,000 employees at the Federal Reserve, I promise you, get paid more this year than they did last year, even though their predictions are so far off. Wouldn't it be nice to have a job like that? I mean, that's like being a weatherman, right? Oh, yeah, I'm wrong all the time, but hey, you know, I'm entertaining, so still got a job. And that's what the Federal Reserve is, and that's what we're starting to ask questions down in Australia of, why are they so bad at this? And I've already told you the answer to it, but we'll see what they come up with down there. But the answer is that they lie in order to push markets either higher or lower based on what they want to do with it. And it's all theater. Their words are just tools to move things up and down. They are not discovery tools to expose and communicate reality. These people are immoral bankers, immoral people who have amassed power for themselves, and they don't think that we little people have the right to truth. Because, in that infamous quote, you can't handle the truth. That's what they believe. Folks, don't trust a single thing that comes out of the government. I mean, honestly, the stats that come out of the government's agencies are just so ridiculous these days. It's like they're not even trying to hide the lies anymore. The Federal Reserve, they just come up with just random numbers like 3.2%. Friends, if you want an accurate prediction, ask your 3-year-old. Hand her some crayons, and you will get a much more accurate prediction than a central banker. That is the truth. All right, folks, if you like this video, you might want to check out this video right here. Otherwise, I will see you later. Steve Poplar out.